Senate GOP leaders striking a controversial deal to reel in Senator Bob Corker. Now, in exchange for Corker's yes vote to advance the tax bill out of committee, GOP leaders agreed to add what they are calling a trigger provision to the tax bill, which would effectively raise taxes if U.S. economic growth does not generate the revenue expected. Several GOP senators have since stated that they are against this trigger provision, and it does raise the question, did the Republicans actually shoot themselves in the foot with this one? Here to discuss, Liz Peek, columnist for thefiscaltimes.com, also a contributor to The Hill, and Shelby Holliday, senior video reporter at The Wall Street Journal. Liz, I understand, you're grappling to get everybody on board, and you don't have much room to lose anyone, but this trigger provision could actually could send taxes up in a slow economy. We have a slow economy. Revenues are slow to the Treasury Department. And the deficit goes up, and they raise taxes, so we'd have a slow economy and higher taxes. Who thought this was smart?
Yeah, it's just the worst possible tax and economic policy. I really think it's like the mother of unintended consequences. Yes, if all of a sudden tax revenues are not living up to expectations, generally speaking, that's because the economy slows down. The last thing you want to do is raise taxes under those circumstances. But also, Charles, this is a terrible kind of rolling back of giving corporations, taking away from corporations the certainty of what you're trying to promise them. Right. In other words, we're trying to say taxes are going to be lower. We want you to invest. The whole idea is to give them a sort of running field with which they can make their planning, and now you're just throwing that totally overboard. I think it is a terrible idea. Yeah,
Shelby, you've got essentially 3 or 4 Republicans who are deficit hawks here, right? Jeff Flake and James Langford. It's interesting because, to your point, Liz, he said, I understand the concern that such a trigger could cause some in the business community to fear it and slow down investment. So he's admitting that even if it's never triggered, just its very existence could have a negative impact on the bill.
And some senators cannot even explain it. They're just saying, hey, ask my colleague. I don't even know how this works. There are questions about what taxes would be raised. Is it corporate? Is it individual? What constitutes for slow economic growth in the first place? We saw some hurricanes earlier this year. That threw a wrench in economic growth. It's really hard to tell when the economy is slow for other reasons, maybe China, maybe something abroad, maybe a terrorist attack. So you don't want to hinge taxes on any sort of event like that could happen any day. And then what? People's taxes go up, and as you said, businesses can't plan around that.
But, there are some folks out there who are saying, hey, you know what? You people who believe in Ronald Reagan and supply-side economics, what are you crying about? You told us if this tax plan goes through, don't worry about it. Deficits will go up, but then they'll go down dramatically because we'll have the virtuous cycle. So they're actually saying, what are you afraid of? If your plan is so great, don't worry about the deficit.
Well, that's a reasonable thing. Again, I think it comes back to certainty, right? And we are in a very late stage of this recovery. The recovery has probably gone beyond expectation in terms of time, and now it is accelerated. Growth is over 3%. I think it'll continue to be over 3% for the foreseeable future. But at some point, you're going to get a slowdown. I think what worries me, Charles, this really reflects, to my mind, the fact that the GOP senators in question don't really understand and believe in the power of tax cuts.
And I have one answer for you. What are you afraid of? Kim Jong-un. You get a nuke, the economy goes nuts.
Right. So the bottom line is that there's always a lurking black swan event. It could be an economic event, a geopolitical event, or just the cycles of business, because at some point you do slow down, even though, to your point, we've got a huge amount of economic headwinds working for us right now, tailwinds rather, but you do have to worry. But what else do they have left, though, Shelby? What else could they deal with in here to bring all these disparate parties together?
Well, there are some rumors that they're thinking about boosting the corporate tax rate from 20 to 22. That might be a deal breaker. Obviously, President Trump doesn't like that. Right. But they are starting to kind of nickel and dime again. So they'll debate this, and there will be some changes.
Like I said, this is Heartbreak Hill, and everyone can see the finish line. Thank you, ladies, both very much.